2 years ago, Donald Trump's former White House aide, Steve Bannon, was convicted on criminal contempt charges after he refused to hand over key evidence to the January 6th Select Committee, and today, the Supreme Court denied Steve Bannon's plea to stay free while he appeals. A massive story. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected an appeal by Steve Bannon, the right-wing podcaster and former Trump White House aide, to remain free while his case goes through the appeals process. Quote, the application for release pending appeal presented to the Chief Justice and by him referred to the court is denied, the court said in a one-sentence order. Bannon now has a deadline to report to federal prison in Connecticut on July 1st. That is only a few days from now. He must serve time after refusing to comply with a congressional investigation into the siege of the U.S. Capitol. A federal jury in Washington, D.C. convicted Bannon 2 years ago on 2 criminal contempt charges for defying subpoenas for documents and testimony from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th events. And these are the types of people that Donald Trump surrounds himself by. He claims to appoint the best people, but not only do they all conveniently stab him in the back, but a large amount of them have gone to prison for multiple reasons. Think Roger Stone, think Rudy Giuliani, who is now facing RICO charges. The list goes on, but everything that Donald Trump touches turns to crap. The article continues, Bannon successfully delayed his 4-month prison sentence for years as appeals wound through the courts. But his luck ran out in May when a federal appeals court unanimously rejected his claims. And cue MAGA undermining our justice system even further. Every time some MAGA sycophant gets convicted on charges, apparently everything is rigged. But the Hunter Biden case was conveniently not rigged. Every black American that has been unjustly convicted, those aren't rigged. But when white Steve Bannon gets convicted, that is somehow rigged. Bannon is a second Trump-era official ordered to serve prison time for flouting demands from Congress. Trump trade advisor Peter Navarro, I should have mentioned Peter Navarro, reported to a prison in Florida in March after Chief Justice John Roberts refused to intervene in the case. Both men cast their disputes with Congress as challenges to the Constitution's separation of powers, but judges found no evidence that Trump had formally asserted executive privilege to block their cooperation with lawmakers. Bannon had tried to argue at his trial that he had relied on advice from his lawyer and therefore lacked the intent to, quote, willfully violate the contempt law. A judge foreclosed that defense based on court precedent, but raised a significant question about it. Questions that Bannon cited in a June 21st petition to the Supreme Court. Quote, Mr. Bannon relied in good faith on his attorney's advice not to respond to a subpoena issued by a House Select Committee until executive privilege issues were resolved, as they had been on 3 prior occasions when Mr. Bannon had agreed to testify after President Trump's counsel had asserted executive privilege, his lawyers wrote. Bannon, who has been a vocal supporter of Trump's bid to regain the White House later this year, may now be incarcerated on those misdemeanor charges through the election in November. He's separately fighting fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy charges in New York State court over an alleged scheme to defraud donors to a charity that aimed to build a wall along the southern border. That case is scheduled for trial later this year. Everybody that Donald Trump surrounds himself with is a total POS, and it shows repeatedly. How come all of them have multiple court cases pending? Multiple. Trump granted Bannon a full pardon from federal charges related to We Build the Wall in January 2021, shortly before he left the White House. Presidents lack power to issue pardons for state crimes. So there you have it. The Supreme Court unanimously denied Bannon's appeal. Jack Hopkins on Twitter said, the Supreme Court has rejected Steve Bannon's last try at staying out of prison. He must report to prison on Monday. Can I get a hell yeah? It is a day to celebrate. Leave a like on the video if you agree. But I also want to point out something that I'm having trouble wrapping my head around. President Biden gave a really good speech after his debate last night in Atlanta, and he gave an amazing speech today in North Carolina, but for some reason those 90 minutes did not go over well. President Barack Obama released an official statement on Twitter today by saying, bad debate nights happen. Trust me, I know. And what Obama is referring to is his first debate with Mitt Romney in 2012, where he famously did not do too well. He did terribly, actually. People were dooming in a very similar way and saying, oh my God, the election's over. But Obama said, but this election is still a choice between someone who has fought for ordinary folks his entire life and someone who only cares about himself. between someone who tells the truth, who knows right from wrong and will give it to the American people straight, and someone who lies through his teeth for his own benefit. Last night didn't change that, and it's why so much is at stake in November. So there you have President Barack Obama rallying behind President Joe Biden and saying we need to bring this home. One bad debate performance does not define the entire election season, especially when Biden is already back out giving great speeches, being aggressive, and taking Donald Trump down. Watch this clip of him in North Carolina today.
My guess, he said, I mean it sincerely, a new record for the most lies told in a single debate. He lied about the great economy he created. He lied about the pandemic he botched, killing millions of people. He closed businesses. He closed schools, losing their homes, people all over this country. America was flat on its back. So I told Trump that he was just one of two presidents in American history who left office with fewer jobs than he started. Herbert Hoover was the other one. That's why I call him Donald Herbert Hoover Trump.
It's insane to me that Biden was completely fine during his after-party speech and was completely fine the next day, but for some reason he just was struggling during those 90 minutes. But I found this really interesting snippet from an article written in 2012, immediately after President Obama bombed the first debate, and it might give you guys some release. It says, "I'm trying to rally some morale, but I've never seen a candidate this late in the game, so far ahead, just throw in the towel in the way Obama did last week. Throw away almost every single advantage he had with voters and manage to enable his opponent to seem as if he cares about the middle class as much as Obama does. How do you erase that imprinted first image from the public consciousness? A president incapable of making a single argument or even halfway decent closing statement." And after Romney's convincing Etch-a-Sketch, convincing because Obama was incapable of exposing it, Romney is now the centrist candidate, even as he is running to head up the most radical party in the modern era. And what that person wrote is almost something that someone could have written last night, word for word, verbatim, if you just switch out the names. And we all know how the 2012 election turned out, so we just have to stick together, we have to rally, we have to coalesce around Biden, and we cannot lose sight of the goal. Here's another clip of President Biden's speech in North Carolina. I think we should be relentlessly circulating these clips.
Then he lied about how great he was for veterans. But then I told him how he had called a veteran who had given their lives in the country in World War I and refused to go to the grave sites. He called them suckers and losers. He tried to deny it. But let me ask you, are you going to believe a 4-star Marine general, his own former Chief of Staff, John Kelly, who said he said that? Or a disgraced, defeated, and lying Donald Trump?
A great performance from President Biden right there, and we're going to need a whole hell of a lot more of that if we want to win this election. If you want to know what I think the Biden campaign should do from here on out, I made a video on my channel about that a few hours ago, but otherwise, make sure you like the video, comment a blue heart if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button, and have a great day.